But anyways, let's wrap up with top 100 movies the whole time. We've got to get to this movie at some point.
Yeah, I really want to watch the next movie, David.
I know.
Please.
So we it's been like almost a month and a half. We've talked about this movie, but haven't talked about the movie. So
we have the 1984 sci-fi documentary Amadeus.
My only input
starring,
to this.
No?
Amadeus. Amadeus. Amadeus.
Yes, exactly.
That's the only thing I know about this.
Rock me Amadeus.
Sorry, it is a biography, drama, history.
Yes.
Movie.
History movie.
1984.
About Mozart.
Yeah.
Amadeus Mozart. I think Amadeus is his first name, right?
Nope. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart.
Middle name.
Wolfie.
Oh yeah, that was cute. Okay, so the movie is about. It's kind of. It's a documentary, sort of, in the sense that it's a dramatic retelling of the relationship between what was the other guy's
Antonio
name?
Salieri
Salieri, who was another composer at the time, and Mozart.
Yeah, sort of like the King's Court kind of thing. Like he produced operas for the king.
Now, what's interesting?
Austria.
Yeah, the actual like story in here is pretty like loosely based on what actually happened. Like they didn't hate each other as much as they do.
Yeah, because I was gonna. That's one of my talking points. Like, is this real?
No, I mean they were around at the same time. And okay, so it talks about Salieri. I'm not saying his name right, but
who cares?
So I'm just gonna say Salieri. So Salieri is it opens up the movie with him like in a hospital.
Insane asylum.
Kind of like a hospital. Yeah.
It's an insane asylum because he's like walking down at the very end. There's people like in cages and on leashes and stuff. You're like, oh, it's that time. That's how we treat these people. Okay. But yeah, insane asylum.
So yeah, like somebody from the church is going to visit to him and have a conversation like, hey, like, because he tried to kill himself at the very beginning of the movie.
And he was killing himself. He was like, oh, I killed you, Mozart. Oh, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. So he's sent to this insane asylum because obviously he's crazy. And the father is sent there to be like, hey, you should repent while you can.
Right.
Right.
And so he's like, let me tell you the story. So then he goes on to how all of this occurred, right? It's one of those like Quentin Tarantino or like, let me tell you to sit down. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's all about him, like his prominence. He was the, like you said, the King's Court. He was the composer of the time for the Vienna. I don't remember. Again, I watched this like a month and a half ago, so some of the details are gonna be a little fuzzy. Anyway, so he hears about this like prodigy, this young prodigy who like created his own, and this is all true.
His own opera at like 4 or like 6 or something. His own first composition at 4, like this crazy ridiculous stuff.
And so the movie is all about introducing you to the character Mozart, the person Mozart, and their battle and like kind of the Game of Thronesy backstabby things. Because Salieri plays this, I'll help you become this great, I'll help you get into the favor of the king and these people so that you can become a better composer. But really,
the whole reason why this starts is because like at the very beginning it's like, who could this person be? Oh my god. So he's like at this this big play where he's gonna be at this big party, and he's like looking around, he's like, oh, there he is, and he's a playboy, young, chasing after his girlfriend,
and he's like
his fiance, and like
he's
a playboy,
he's disgusting.
He laughs. Right?
Yeah,
he has bad jokes. He's vulgar.
And Salieri is like this refined, and he's like, whoever mastered all of this amazing music must be someone who, you have this idea of who Mozart would be, right? And everyone actually does. But then you actually meet Mozart, which is close to what he actually was. He's like a adolescent, sophomoric, dweeb.
Chasing tail?
Yeah, like he's a frat brat. Like, you know what I mean?
Doesn't really like Cohen's or like when all the royalty and all that kind of stuff, and like
he doesn't care.
Yeah, exactly.
He's just like, I want to make my music. Now he's really, really, into his own music and is crafting his own
to the point where like, I don't need a job. I just want to make my music. And it's like, well, you kind of need to do like teach people how to play to make money like, while you're writing your opera. It's like, I don't want to do that.
I just want to do this podcast. He's
just really self-centered and
and he thinks he's his biggest thing is his hubris, right? He always thinks he's the greatest. Granted, he is, but at the time it doesn't work well for you because he rubs people the wrong way because he's like they like it's so great. Some of the lines in this movie are fantastic because he's talking to Salieri and he's like, oh, what do you think about this? And Salieri thinks it's like amazing, but he can't play it up. He's like, it's okay, and he's like, oh, really? Because I think it's like pretty good.
Well, in the beginning, we're like
so good
where they bring Mozart in because the king of or the Austrian king, I think.
Yeah.
Whatever, wants to bring him in to write an opera because he heard about this, and he brings him in, and for like his introduction, Salieri writes a little ditty or like a thing
for him to walk into.
Yeah, and then the king he's trying to learn how to play as well, so the king's like playing it, whatever, and then
Mozart hears it.
And they're going through this conversation, and then he's like, "Oh, can you play this for us?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't need the paper, like I got it all up here." And
yeah,
like,
you heard it one time.
You heard it one time, like as you were walking in. He's like, "No, watch, I'll show you." And then he plays, and he's like, "Actually, I think this works better." And this is all Salieri's work. And during this time, he's looking at him, and he's like, "Don't you think that sounds better? I think it sounds better." And like
he's like changing it on the fly, and the guy's just like, "I spent hours working on that, you jerk, and I was doing it to be nice. You're a jerk." So the whole movie is about kind of those two characters, really one side, because he's tricked now young Mozart into thinking he's going to be his aide. He's going to help him. And really, in reality, he's doing everything in his power to break him down.
And a lot of it's like, there's a religious side too, because obviously Salieri's like really religious, and he sees, like, he hears the music, and he's like, he looked at some of Mozart's notes he's writing, like, as he was like, not looking or whatever, and he's looking through them, and each page is like a totally different, and he's like, oh my God, he is the voice of God.
Right.
Like, that's how he sees Mozart.
And
he
like,
how dare you, like, give me this talent and send me this life, but you give all that talent, the voice of God, to this guy, and not someone like me.
Yeah, somebody who is
so he's
devout.
Just super jealous. Yeah.
And so, anyways, the movie has won a bunch of awards. I think it won the Academy Award in 1984. I'm pretty sure. And it's the costume design, the setting, the actual music in it, because there's a lot of moments. This movie's long. What is it, like 3 hours long?
Well, we watched the director's cut, and it's like 3 hours.
Yeah, and so there are moments in this movie that are like the full episode from an opera or whatever, like a full scene from an opera, and it's amazing. Like, just the sound design, obviously the music is fantastic, but I listened to it on the surround sound system. You got to do that. You can't listen to it on like TV speakers.
The music is great.
It's fantastic. And the characters who play, Salieri and Mozart and all the ancillary characters are all great. It was weird to see the guy who's the Vienna king. He's like he's kind of like a goofball in a bunch of other movies. It's weird. Like,
wasn't he?
He's like the principal in like every movie, like where like the kids poke fun at the principal.
Yeah, I think he was in like a couple of like Leslie Nielsen movies or something.
Yeah,
like that,
exactly. And he's like this king, and it's like, this is weird. So, anyways, let's give our review. I pretty much think I think everyone knows what I'm going to give it. Ready? Thumbs up. Great movie. Deserves to be where it is. Right? I think it's 85 on the list. I think that's where we're at.
Yeah, because like our list is.
Yeah, I know. Thumbs to the side is meh, and then thumbs down. Or no, it's a good movie, but it doesn't deserve to be where it's at. And then thumbs down is an accounting error.
You always say accounting error.
Yeah, I know. 1, 2, 3. Okay, both thumbs up. This movie's great. I mean, even if you don't like classical music, the story is enough betrayal and backstabbing that it makes it interesting. And some of the things Salieri does, because he's like this devout, religious guy, it's like, dude, you are not religious. Like,
well, he was.
You are
and then
not
he
a man of God.
Where, like, he gets to the point where he's so jealous, where he's like, I've had, the worst death thoughts. I've just imagined killing this guy. And he gets to the point where he coaxes his wife. Yeah. To Mozart's wife to come in and be like, he wants to steal the work from her and be like, you know what you got to do.
No, he says she's trying to get him a job or get a good favor with some people so he could teach as his like job, so he can continue to focus on his music. And he's like, well, I'll put in a good word for you. I'll help your husband get this job, giving the king's like niece lessons. But you got to do something for me. And she's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you got to do something for me. She's
well endowed.
She's a voluptuous type.
Yeah.
And so she shows up later that night in like a very for that time
and starts to undress, and you see,
you see stuff,
great.
yeah.
But and right before it, he like rings the bell, and he's like, get her out of here.
No, yeah. So she gets down to like her skivvies, right? And she's like, okay, I'm ready. Like, and she's like, kind of like, she's doing the depressed
she's young.
thing. Yeah, she's doing the depressed thing. She's like, okay, I guess I love my husband. This is what I have to do for him. And then he looks like he's gonna do. You're like, he's not gonna do this. And then he just takes the bell and rings it, calls in his servant. He's like, I don't know what is she doing? This is ridiculous. Like, embarrasses her. Like, does like the only other worst thing you could do to somebody in that position is like, he's like, get this whore out of my. What are you trying to do?
But that night he takes his cross and burns it because he knows it's like,
yep, that's it. Going to hell.
once you have those kind of thoughts and like do something like that, like
Yeah.
And ever since then he just goes into like the befriending Mozart, quote unquote, and then just slowly ruins his life. Eventually kills him.
Yeah.
So you think it's worse that he kicked her out than to just sleep with her?
I think for what he was trying, because
he just second guessed himself.
No, I don't think his intent was ever to sleep with her. I think his intent was to show his power over her, and then to just not the sex is not what I'm after. It's the power, right? That's that saying. They said in House of Cards, every instance of sex is about power, and every sense of power is just trying to get the sex. Anyways, but that's the point, right? It's this idea that like,
I thought he was going to do it because you can kind of see the look on his face, and then he's like, ugh, and then like rings the doorbell. It's like, oh crap, I can't go through with this.
Yeah, and like, okay, so what's interesting? I went and looked online like Mozart stuff because I was like, is this guy really like this sophomore? No, he totally was. Like some of his pieces of work, if it's translated, are about like feces and like stuff like
Like the operas?
Yeah, like the operas. Like,
and they mentioned some of the operas he was writing was like the first one that was like a Turkish, but they speak German, but it's in a brothel.
Yeah, and they're like, you can't have
whoa,
that.
yeah, exactly, because they're all proper and stuff. But he was always pushing that line.
Yeah, and so it's funny, like, because I watched a video of like the kids, like a kids choir singing this song, this Mozart, not the opera of Mozart, and playing it and stuff like that, and they were like, this translation of this is like talking about poop.
So and he's the Trey Parker and Matt Stone.
He is.
Of like
he really is. It's cool. It makes Mozart really interesting. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Mozart's obviously interesting. I went to. In college, I had that teacher that for music appreciation because you have to take some capstone class or something. And I was like, okay, whatever. And we would go into the classroom and she would just have like her eyes closed, blaring this music when we're all sitting down. And she would like 15 minutes into class, she's still listeing because it hasn't.
I wish I had that because like I was in band for 6 years. I love if in between podcasts, I'm probably just listening to classical music or video game music or whatever. But so I love music, but I wish like he just sees it and he like sees like the voice of God, whatever, in his music and stuff. I'm like, that'd be so cool to be that passionate of music.
Working at, I know we keep bringing up Bose, but like one thing that Bose would always try to do is like create.
Try and get that sponsorship.
Bose was like this movie does a good job of when Salieri's talking about the movements and the music, he's actually attributing like tangible things to it. He's like, oh, and then this little flute would come in and then you'd hear it. And it's like listening to music with somebody who knows what they're talking about is almost more, it provides a better appreciation of it because otherwise you're just like, this sounds pretty.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's like, no, listen to this part. And that's what Bose, we used to, when we would do demonstrations, we would say, okay, I'm going to play this piece of music from this person. I want you to listen to this. And then about halfway through, you're going to hear this, we would do
crescendo.
Yeah, exactly. All this language, this enveloping sound of the horns, right? And so like, but people would be like, oh, that does sound that sounds more than just pretty. And this movie does a good job of that. So the movie is just the like I said, the betrayal, the backstabby stuff. It's very Game of Thronesy.
So messed up, man.
Yeah,
because like his dad dies, and like the last thing he remembers, like he took his dad and wife to a party, and he's wearing like this black thing. And then his dad passes away shortly after. And then Salieri, gets the same outfit that his dad wore and like goes to be like, I need you to write me this play, but he doesn't know it's him. Mozart doesn't know it's him.
Yeah, he thinks it's like a ghost or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Kills him, and like working on the play is actually kills him, and that's why at the beginning of the spoiler, we get in spoiler town. This movie's 1984, but like, that's why he's saying I killed Mozart at the beginning because
he literally worked him to death. And there's a point where like he's sick and he's trying to do this other job, so obviously he can make money to live for him and his wife and his kid. And meanwhile, he's working on this opera that he's not allowed to work, or he's not allowed to stop working on, and he literally just dies.
Yeah, I don't think any of that actually happened. I think that they were competitors, quote unquote, but like it had more to do with the fact that Mozart had a difficult time getting work as a outsider in the king's court. That was all true. Like the Italians were very hesitant to bring on anybody.
Was he buried
else.
in an unmarked grave?
Yeah, I think that was true.
God, that was so messed up. Like at the end of this, like you see this genius and he's poor, so they with other poor people they just put him in a mass grave. Yeah, and that's it. This
and
genius.
I think the point of the Salieri time thing is like I killed the voice of God. Why did I like at the very end? He's like, wait. I was jealous, but I didn't want to. It's...
At the very end, it was kind of cool though, because like he strolls out of his room after telling the father all this, and the father's like, "Oh my God, like you're a terrible person."
Yeah,
and he's like, "I'm not a terrible person. I'm the poster of mediocrity." Yeah. And he's like going through the halls of all these like demented people who are obviously like disabled and all this stuff, and he's like, Yes, these are my people. We're all mediocre
but it's not
in the
true.
face of these people. Yeah,
he sees himself as mediocre, but everyone's mediocre compared to Mozart. That's the point, right? Is like you can't try to hold yourself out to be the monolith of this industry or whatever, of this particular sect of music. Like everyone's mediocre, right? That's the point. But it's just really well acted. Everyone's very good in it.
Music's great. Yeah, and everything is just really good.
The costume design alone is really cool. Like,
and when I knew it was gonna be like 3 hours, I'm like, oh my God.
It moves quick.
But like watch it moves quick. It's a good movie. Really good movie.
All right, so that's Amadeus. Next one is I think it's number 84. It is
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, 2004.
Yes,
I've actually seen that one.
There we go. So maybe you can show up next week.
Last time I watched this, I fell asleep. So we'll
I enjoy this movie, but we'll talk about it next week. Let us know if you're watching along with us. Let us know if you like Amadeus or classical music in general.
Just say I like classical music.
It's funny.
End of email.
So, anyways,
in general,
it's cool stuff, guys.
No, but when we were talking about Amadeus, that song, right? Rock me, Amadeus, Amadeus.
Oh, don't tell people.
Yeah, I've got to do this. He's like, no, I sang it. He's like, no, it's Dr. Zaius. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's
From
like,
The Simpsons.
Simpsons, yeah.
Yeah, I know,
Dr.
but he-
Zaius, Dr. Zaius.
He
But I didn't
thought-
know that. I didn't know about that Rock Me Amadeus.
Oh, you
song.
didn't know the original
No,
song?
no.
You're doing it wrong. I'm like, no, they're making
That's
fun
a
of
parody.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's awesome.
Honestly, I've heard the Dr. Zaius more than I've heard
Rock Me
Amadeus.
Amadeus.
Yeah.
Troy McClure. Anyways, you can always send us your emails. Remember, if you send us an email, we choose you have a chance to win a $5 gift card to Steam, Amazon, or Starbucks. The email is
Sitdowncentered@gmail.com. And these things are flying off the shelves, people.
are.
Get in quick now.
exactly. Anything you want to add, Jordan, before we sign off?
Facebook. No.
Basically, like,
No, you gotta. What's the email, Jordan?
Oh, yeah. It's sitdownstandard@facebook.com.
There
no,
you go.
Jordan, it's Gmail.
I just love that shtick.
I know. Until
bit,
next
good
time.
bit.
Until next time. Bye.
See ya.
Later.